Hello, I'm Average Joe. Welcome back to the world. Now, today we are going to be working on the kitchen section of this specific level because I want to just get going with it. I do have a little sketch of what I want it to look like, if I can actually find my sketchbook. So looking at it, it seems like the kitchen area is going to be like one of those Mario levels that is part fire and part ice. There's going to be a giant oven in one corner that is open and spewing out fire, and there will be a giant freezer in the other corner that is tipped over and spilling out ice and snow. I know that's not entirely realistic, because when freezers are like tipped on their side, it's a bad thing. You need to wait for like the Freon or something to not spill out. I don't know. But this should look pretty good, in my opinion. I think it'll be an interesting setting at the very least. But the first thing I need to do is actually decide how big this kitchen is going to be. And before that, I actually need to decide how big the oven and the fridge are. Maybe I should do that first before I actually get started on a floor. Yeah, I'm gonna design the refrigerator, the freezer, and the oven. Maybe I'll make the oven look like just a really big Minecraft furnace. That sounds like fun. Okay, so this is a 16 by 16 cube, and this is a Minecraft block. So blocks have 16 by 16 textures for each of their faces, which don't necessarily line up perfectly. You can see that this pixel is darker than this pixel. And if we want to do a scale model of a furnace, it ends up being this big, which arguably is too big. I suppose I could try and copy it next to the building to see just exactly how big it is compared to everything else, and I might actually do that just to get a good check here. Right, compared to the door, back a ways, the furnace is that big, which is not bad, actually. And I was going to do the freezer twice the size, so it was going to end up being kind of like that, but on its side. And that might be too big, actually. So I do have the option of scaling it down to an 8 by 8, which is doable, I think. Okay, 8 by 8 is much smaller compared to the 16 by 16. Considering the freezer is meant to be on its side, I think I might just go with 16 by 16s. Because that definitely feels on the grander scale idea I had for these two appliances. I'm falling. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna make scale model furnace here. That feels like the way to go. As for the freezer, I don't actually know what I'm gonna do for that. My initial thoughts were to make like a model of the refrigerator we have in our house, and just instead of having it be two doors, one door, and it's laying on its side with one of the doors open, and snow and ice is just sliding out of it into the area. But if we're doing scale block models, maybe I could do, like, a dispenser and an iron block on its side with an iron door just open on the ground, maybe? We'll see about that, honestly. I'm not sure. First things first, let's do the scale model of the furnace, I suppose. Well, from here, it's not horrible. I would not say it's the best pixel art furnace in the world, but I think I'm gonna go with it. I did opt to actually have some actual on-fire burning stuff in here, rather than just have the inside also be pixel art. I feel like it goes well with, like, the little particles that show up on the lit furnace. I definitely feel like I should look up someone else's way of doing this and maybe copy that, because while I like this, it's not quite the same. And obviously I don't have, like, the hot coals or the fire pouring out of the mouth right now, because I actually need to build the room where that happens first. I also think I'm going to build the... what did I call it? The freezer that is tilted on its side. I still don't know if I want to do, like, a giant version of what a 2-block freezer would be, which looks something along the lines of, this. This is how I've always built a freezer in Minecraft, and I don't know. I don't know if I want to make this, but big, especially considering how the furnace came out. Also, I feel like there's probably a better way to make freezers in the game now, isn't there? Yeah, probably. But I'm not gonna look it up. Not right now. I'm just gonna get started on making the freezer. Alright, so this is the freezer, tilted on its side. We've got a little bucket at the bottom and 2 shelves. Decided not to add another one at the top, because if I did even spacing, it would... yeah. It was kind of interesting figuring this out, because initially I had used, what was it? Quartz. You can kind of see that it's a pretty yellow-white compared to the pink and the blue of these other blocks. And along with Minecraft's lighting, which itself is fairly yellow, it made the inside here feel pretty warm. So I dug out every white block in the game I could think of, and the bluest white I could find was snow. Which, a bit cliche for making a freezer out of, but it works. It definitely feels a lot like a cooler white than the quartz did. I did actually try the pale oak as a color in there, but pink is pretty warm itself, so I didn't end up using that one. And now that this does look a lot like a freezer, I was thinking maybe I could do some creative liberties with the furnace. Because see, if I want one side to be frozen wasteland and the other to be a fiery hellscape, should probably have more reds in this than the grays. In fact, the grays are... well, it is mostly neutral, but I think this is a pretty cool black, and I think the cyan is a bit blue as well. So I kind of want to do some recoloring of the furnace. Maybe I can make it look... It won't look like a Minecraft furnace when it's done, but there's nothing that looks like a freezer in the game itself. So while this would be nice, I'm just gonna make a copy of it and try out some different color schemes. Okay, so I've picked out some reds and some oranges to kind of pick out what I think a good color scheme would be for here. I've put a lot of the vibrant reds over here, and I'll be honest, I didn't realize how dull red concrete was compared to, like, redstone. But, like, for the longest time, I figured every concrete was, like, the most vibrant of that color there. But no, red is a lot more saturated, I guess, compared to the concrete. In fact, a lot of these reds, aside from maybe this one, that one, and kind of that one, not so much that one, are pretty dull. This one's pretty vibrantly red as well, but it's dark. It's saturated, but it's darker. I did pick out some black terracotta because I think that is a bit of a warmer neutral than the other ones. And while I do have some oranges, I'm not sure I'm going to use a lot of them unless they are in an area that is heated. Some initial thoughts I'm going for is maybe having the black terracotta be the border, and then maybe the nether bricks being the top part. Not sure. I would probably also get rid of the texturing that kind of makes the sides look like cobblestone in the actual furnace thing, and maybe go with a bit more of a noise pattern than lines drawn in it pattern. I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of time, again, because of work and school, but I am kind of liking these options. I would probably do a bit of a duller stuff for the bottom, maybe? I mean, it's clearly more pink, but it's also brighter than the other things over here, because that is also kind of pink, but it's a bit more... I don't know, I'm not an artist. I mean, I kind of am, but that's not important right now. What is important is actually trying some of this stuff out. So I'm just going to make a... Well, first, I'm actually going to get my place tool really quick. We'll just select this and start swapping out some blocks. We're gonna go from the deep slate bricks, to terracotta. Oh, didn't realize that there was stuff in there. Well, hang on. Right, anyways. Don't have to worry about the inside, can just focus on the outside details. Inside can be worried about later. So, for the bottom here, let's try replacing the stone with the brick. That definitely looks weird with all of the other grays. Maybe I should try swapping the terracotta with one of the muted things here. Let's try the nether bricks. Yeah, that looks better. Yeah. Yeah, okay, I'm liking this. This is our new furnace design. I like this. It is definitely going to blend in because we're using mangrove planks for that and the wall. But I think it definitely looks better. If it comes down to it, I can always replace the mangrove planks with something else. Maybe the stripped mangrove wood would work. Actually, let's try that now, really quick. We're going from this to that. Yeah, you know what? That could work. If it comes down to it, I can always try changing this to a different direction with the lines, but I think having them go up, at least consistently, is pretty good. Alright, I'll just replace our furnace over there with this one. Because I'm actually liking this. I think this is our furnace design. Yeah, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you guys. I can't imagine doing something like this without the tools that I've made, because, like, doing this by hand would have taken me a day, a dedicated day at most. Even if I was using... If I wasn't using, like, commands, this would have taken me a day. If I was using commands, it probably still would have taken me longer than using these tools, because, like, that's a cat. That is just how much stuff is here. Just walking along this, it's huge. Anyways, I think it's about time to copy in the furnace and the freezer. I think... How did I have this planned out, actually? Where's my sketchbook? Right, so the oven was across from the entrance, and the freezer was across from the exit. It was also, like, diagonal to the furnace. So let's get the furnace in first, I think. Alright, let's see. Do I want a little bit of room around the furnace? Or do I just want to put the thing in? Let's have a little bit of room around it. Oh, I made a mistake. I really need, like, some icons for these tools. Thing is, to do that would require... It's not that it requires a texture pack, it's that I need a way in the texture pack to identify these tools, and I believe I have a way to do that with, like, with custom model data. But I don't know, it feels complicated, and it probably shouldn't be complicated. Alright, let me just rotate this around a bit. There we go, that's what I like to see. Perfect. Alright, facing the entrance. Not quite, but good enough. Oh, you know, there's a problem with that. I think... Okay, hang on. Let me get the freezer in, and I can describe what I'm looking at a bit better here. Okay, so in my initial sketch, these two are kind of in their corners, and are, like, pouring out cones of, like, fire and ice, which, for this, would have the cone be kind of forced into the wall here. So I think this needs to be over a bit more, and potentially also this. Because I don't want them to overlap too much, but there's also a slight problem where... I don't know. I don't know how to describe the problem I am seeing right now. Okay, it's been a couple days. I think I can describe the problem now. No, I can't. But I have cleared out this area, and I've made some tweaks to the copy tool to make it a bit easier to figure out where things should be, specifically by adding a copy preview. So I don't have to keep erasing and then replacing it. I think the main issue I was having was that the placement didn't feel right. I don't know if I want these to be right up against the wall, or if I want them to be a ways away from the wall, I guess. But the main thing is that it needs to be like a cone coming out from the corners of the furnace and the freezer. The little effects on the room. So coals and fires coming out in a cone from there, ice and snow coming out in a cone from over there, and it needs to be... there needs to be kind of like a little diagonal between the two that is safe to walk, and everything else is just not. So I need to figure out a good place for the furnace and the freezer to go, where the cones have the most visual effect. And I think I just explained the problem I was having. Anyways, I'm going to try and use this new preview thing to figure out what the best position for these are. And I think... nope, wrong way. Moving the furnace a bit closer to the center of the room is what I should have been doing. I don't think it should have been directly in front of the door. Or the entranceway, or whatever I'm going to call that. Another problem I've been mulling over is that my original design for this had a door on the opposite wall of the entrance, but if I want to minimize the amount of movement for leaving a room, then the door should be either on the same wall or like near the corner for the same wall. And I'm thinking it's probably going to end up in that corner, which is still, you know, a ways away from the return hall over here. Because you can see over here that, so that over there is going to be the return hall. One of those doors over there. I think the bottom door is the return. You can see that I left the exit for the library pretty close to it. But if I have the return door over there, that's a much longer hallway. Which isn't inherently a problem, but it is going to make the return trip for players take a bit longer, which probably is not going to be ideal. So I just need to figure out where I want the furnace to go. And I'm sorry for all the particles, but I need these ones at least so that I know which direction things are going. So let's try just keep moving it this way. Does that look good? Come out that way, come out that way. The freezer and the furnace are going to be awfully close to each other. Maybe I should have made this room bigger. Yeah. The initial design for this room, I think, probably would have required a larger room just in general. But I think that'll be okay. Okay, I won't lie to you guys, it feels like these two are really too close together. But I'm thinking maybe with how the angles to this are, this is good enough. It is also, the furnace is way too far from the wall, but again, I think it'll be okay. The real issue is going to be getting the combination, getting the cones from these two, seeing what happens in the center here, because you have blast of heat coming from one side and a blast of cold coming from the other. I'm also not sure if I'm going to be doing anything with the walls here, because if I don't, then that's going to be blending into the wall pretty well. So maybe I want to do something with that to make it blend a little bit, maybe where the, like, blast of cold onto the wall is coming from will kind of change the background there, and vice versa for the furnace. I don't know, I'm straying quite a bit from the original plan. But I do have the room, and I do have the structures in place. So, progress. Alright, I've kind of marked out the little cones for the areas of effect. I tried to do a bit deeper lines for the furnace than the freezer, because the furnace has a smaller exit point than the freezer does, which means there's going to be more force and the spray will be wider. And since the freezer has a larger exit point, the spray will be a bit less so. You know what? I don't think that's how it works. But I'm gonna go with it. Besides, a furnace is probably going to have more force coming out of it anyways because it is heated and has more energy than a freezer, which is pulling in energy rather than putting out energy. Anyways, the line for the one line for the freezer is a bit off, but I think that'll be fine. The way these are positioned as well does kind of imply that the furnace went off first and knocked over the freezer, which then started billowing out its own kind of temperature control stuff. So, yeah, that is interesting, and I am amused that it came out that way. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it does not feel like I know what I'm doing right now. Like, so I'm thinking, since this is supposed to be like a furnace that's going out of control, whatever is spilling out of it is kind of making a little trench down the hallway. And I think for the freezer, it'll be like a mound of snow and stuff. But, like, I am clearly not doing this right. It does not feel like there should be something poking out of here. It feels like it should be just the other way around. I definitely have this either too wide or this needs to go lower. And I just don't have any more time to put stuff in a video today. So this is unfortunately where I have to leave off. I'm gonna keep working on this. There's definitely room for improvement. I think I'm getting the outer curves of this thing at least somewhat correct, but I definitely need to redo the line from there to here, because it's not correct. But progress is being made. I'm just trying to get out the shape before I actually do any of the blocks for, like, burning or coals along the edge or whatever, because the shape is going to be the most important thing here. So I guess I'll just keep plugging away at this and trying to figure out how to make it work properly. And I will see you guys in a week. Sorry, in a month. See ya.